Welcome everyone back to Beat the Game. My name's Steve and today we're going to be doing our second video with Quicksilver. We're going to be the first one for the aspect breakdown and what synergizes aspect strategy with Quicksilver aggression. So guys, if you guys like my channel, please share, like, and subscribe. And without further ado, here we go with the Quicksilver aggression. Alright, first things first, let's talk about Quicksilver in aggression. So we're looking at his basic powers, okay? So at a basic attack of 1, forward of 1, defensive 1. All around, we know that Pietro can, increase these stats. But why would I want to play him in aggression? Now, I think aggression and leadership are going to be, I think, his two most powerful aspects in solo, by far. I think... I'm going to be, one thing I'm going to be referencing, referencing some of the aspect strategies. So if you haven't seen those videos on, understanding the aspect or like the main line of focus with aggression, there's two main archetypes that I've discovered or that I, think work really, really well with aggression. And I'm going to be referencing those. So if you haven't seen those videos, just look into my channel. There's I think it's the new player on the new player corner, understanding the aspects. Look at it up. There's some great insight here on some line of focus for just playing aggression in general, and then you can kind of fine tune it towards the hero. So I'm going to be referencing this a lot. All right, so I think for Quicksilver here, I think the main one I think I want to use is I'm going to be wanting to use that Juggernaut strategy where I want Quicksilver to do as much damage as quickly as possible. The pun was intended. And let's see how we can do that. Now, one of the things that I really want to focus on is Quicksilver. You want to be using his hero-specific cards, always be running as much as possible. So that really is the strength of his deck, him being able to ready multiple times. So I think building the deck in a way that really helps you see those always be runnings multiple times during the game is really going to be the key focus here on what we want to do. All right, so again, Quicksilver has a lot of events, so let's look at the aggression cards that I think are going to synergize well, and then we're going to look at the event cards that I think are going to be very situational, and then some of them that I feel don't really do the aggression type any type of favors, or they don't really favor him too well. But again, this is all my opinion. You guys can make your own. Please, I feel free to experiment with some of the other cards. But again, this is just my opinion, and I'm going to give it to you how I think I see it and playing out. So power of aggression here. Let's just talk with the double resource. Depending on how you want to play, if you want to play more with the heavier cost, obviously two of those in the deck is always recommended. For the deck I'm going to be showing you afterwards that I kind of thought up, I'm only using one of these, and I'll explain why, just because there's not that many targets, and we'll see. All right, so power of aggression, here we go. Let's look at our first card, Skilled Strike. So at first glance, you're like, wow, Skilled Strike, yes. When you make a basic attack, it gets +2 for that attack. Love it, it costs 0. You can use it as a resource. For me, this is a definite include in the deck. I don't know if I want to run 3 of these again, because I think I'd rather get ready more often than just that extra 2 damage. Because once you have him fully upgraded, an extra attack is 3 damage. So basically it's the same thing that you have right there, and you have another ready. So I don't know if I like this as a 3 of in the deck. Definitely, I'll probably put a 1 of, because once in a while, you'll get that big extra minion and you want to deal the extra damage. So this is definitely a 1 of in the deck for me. And then you guys can choose to put more of those, but Skill Strike for me is definitely an auto include, at least a 1 of in the deck. Mean Swing. Now this is another great card for Pietro. Again, it's a 0 cost event, so cheap. But again, you need to have Yonborn in play because that's the only weapon that he has. And you will be including Yonborn, trust me, and I'll talk about that in a second. But I think Mean Swing, again, it's a zero cost event. I love it. It's a big, big attack. I would only include one in my deck just because if I get two in my hand, you know, I don't know. Because I like these zero cost events. I don't think I want to be playing that many. Again, because I'm more of a builder and reduce my deck size and just focus on my hero specific cards. It is not a bad card at all. I think it's really out there. It's really good for what you want to do, especially if you're trying to do the Juggernaut aspect where you just want to do as much damage as quickly as possible. Then yes, it's a good include. If you're going to be going that route, just because you need Yonborn to be in play, I don't think it's a 3 of. If you want to go the really cheap event route, then I would definitely do 2 of these in your deck just to be able to cycle them at different times. Because remember, you have to exhaust your weapon, so you can only do 1 of those at a time. All right, another card that I think is really good if you're playing with the Juggernaut aspect, toe-to-toe. Again, it's a 1 cost event, you know, choose an enemy to attack you for 5 damage. What's really cool about Quicksilver is you can actually pay with it with your friction resistance, because you know what, these 1 cost events are pretty much free. You can have the villain attack you or have an enemy attack you, defend, and then ready back up and then deal the 5 damage. So I think this is a really real combination for that Juggernaut. I don't think running 3 of these is worth it, but you know, 1 or 2 in the deck definitely is going to have a nice little feel for like powerful 5 damage attacks. So I think this is pretty good. All right, and then surprise attack. Now, this is going to be more situational on how you like to play. For me, once I have Serval Industries, I am definitely going to be trying to flip back and forth into Alter Ego almost all the time. Because remember, Serval Industries, what it does is you exhaust it and shuffle 2 Quicksilver cards. So most of the times I'll be shuffling and always be running. Or if I'm getting close to, you know, the end game, I'll be shuffling some maximum velocities. Now, sorry for a little bit of the glare here. And then you'll just be having like these super powerful turns. So I think for me, these are the combos. So if you like to flip back and forth, I know some people when they play aggression, they are like, I just want to stay in hero form as long as possible and just, you know, bang, 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 punch, 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 punch. Which is, you know, it's a very sound technique, especially in solo. It's very doable where you can do a lot of damage in a short amount of time. So I think it's not a bad idea, but I am more of those that likes to kind of build my character into an awesome finish. So I think in aggression, so surprise attack again, it's a quick damage resource, especially with your friction resistance. I'm going to mention friction resistance a whole bunch here. Because again, it's a 1 cost event, and it's the friction resistance gives you that physical that you need to actually play this for very cheap, so for free. So basically it's a 1 card and it's giving you the exact resource. I'm gonna see if I move these a little bit, it doesn't shine as much. Yeah, so friction resistance, again, you can do your attack. When you do your basic attack, this readies up and you have your 4 damage. So I think this is a very, very cool card. Again, 1 in the deck, I think, is more than enough. You don't want to clog your deck with events because he has so many. 1 card here that is, I think, by far my favorite card in aggression at this moment is Into the Fray. So if you are like me, and this is why you're going to be running some of those double resources, just because it's a 3 cost event. Again, very expensive, but it does deal the 6 damage to a minion, and all exited damage can go as threat removal. So for me, it's a combination of best of both worlds. It's a big damage attack and it removes threat. For me, in this aggression build, it's awesome. Now, what the great thing about it is you can actually use your basic power to reduce the minion to as close to 1 as possible. Not worry too much about the main scheme, and then Into the Fray. You know, you'll sacrifice. It's a big turn. You probably won't be doing too much with your turn because at a 3 cost and a hand size of 5. But again, it's so good that it's worth running at least 2 in any aggression deck. So if I'm going to choose in an aggression deck only 1 or 2 events, I'm probably just going to be running 2 into the phrase and then try to put as many permanents. Anyway, that's the way I build. But for me, I think Into the Fray is a definite 1 or 2 of, depending on the scenario that you're playing. All right, and then the last one, it is the stun effect, which is the drop kick. This is pretty cool for a lot of these really powerful villains. Now, dropkick, again, you need to play all 3 physical resources. Now, what's fun about this is once you have friction resistance, again, I'll bring this card back up again because it just generated a physical resource. Once you have that martial prowess in there, that's 2 physical resources. And when you're playing aggression, you mostly have all physical. You have a lot of physical resources in your deck. So the trigger for the stun and draw, I think, is going to be extremely powerful, and it's going to be very easily obtainable for dropkick. So for me, if you are somebody that really likes to stay in hero form a lot, and you're like, I don't want to flip down, I just want to bash face, I think you'll be running 2 dropkicks and 1 into the fray, or even 3 dropkicks and 1 into the fray, and I think you're going to be a pretty solid character, because then the villain's probably never going to attack you if you have these like in a good timing with the luck of the draw, obviously. So I think dropkick a definite 2 or 3 of in a deck. I personally am not a big fan of stunning and locking the villain, but it is a good strategy to have. So those are the events that I think are the most powerful events. If you want, we'll just review these again. So dropkick, Into the Fray, surprise attack, toe-to-toe, mean swing, and skill strike. I think these are going to be your go-to, the first cards you're going to want to think about when you go into a fight with a Quicksilver aggression. Now, some of the cards on the sidelines, some of the events that I see on the sidelines, because I think they're most situational than anything. The first one is Moment of Triumph. This is, again, depending on your play style, what you'll want to be doing. I think if you're going to be running a couple of Into the Frays, then Moment of Triumph is probably a card you'll want to include to just heal up out of the blue. Again, remove the threat, heal up for maybe 5. I think it's a pretty good play. it's very, very good. I don't think it's an auto include in my book, just because, again, for me, it won't be an auto include all the time, because I will be flipping down most of the time. But again, depending on your playstyle, this might just be the right thing to keep you in hero form throughout the entire game and just never worry about recovery. All right, so Moment of Triumph. The other one I think is very situational, Piercing Strike. This is going to be very scenario specific. I do recommend this against Red Skull, against Crossbones, against anybody, even Rhino, who does get tough on a regular basis. I think this is going to be a card that you'll want to put at least 1 or 2 of in your deck, and maybe replace some other cards like the drop kicks and stuff like that, or the skilled strikes and stuff like that. You'll want to put piercing strikes instead, just because that piercing is going to go a long way. All right, and then the last one is, again, Relentless Assault. Very good card, especially if you want to combo it with Moment of Triumph. It's a little bit less powerful. It's 5, so maybe you're going to recover for 4 if you can drop the minion down to 1. Again, the physical resource is not an issue, because you do have the friction resistance that generates that physical resource to get the condition. So Relentless Assault, again, if there's a lot of guard minions, then definitely run this. Again, depending on the scenario, this is going to be very scenario specific for me for that. And then let's talk about the events that I feel that don't really make the cut. And this, again, my opinion, there is a bunch of events that I think just don't cut it for me, just because of like either the cost or just the effect. All right, first things first is Chase Them Down. Even though I like it, once Quicksilver is built up, he's got a thwart of 2. So I have a basic action that I can just thwart for 2, and if I defeat a minion or a villain, I can actually use it to defeat the villain or the minion. So again, I think this goes into this. I think it was a toss-up between these situational cards and the, you know, between the, I don't think they're going to be the right fit. Again, because it's an event, it costs 0. It's a good card, but do I really want to clog my deck with a bunch of events when I really, all I want to see is my always be runnings and my double times and my maximum velocities. So for me, that's why it was a no, just because of that. The other ones, all right, let's talk about the other ones that we're talking about. We're talking about Get Over Here. Even though I love the effect of, you know, if there's a minion in play, you know, get rid of your, if you get stunned with Quicksilver, this is a good stun removal to always be running. But because he has so many cards that do ready him, I don't think Get Over Here is really that impactful here, because I can always use a thwart ability and then use something else to get rid of my stun on my second activation of Quicksilver. So for me, Get Over Here didn't really cut it. I don't get you don't have any bonuses for being aerial. I don't engage any other enemies. So for me, it wasn't there. Press the Advantage. Again, this is going to be very specific. If you want to be running the 3 drop kicks, if you are running the 3 drop kicks, I think it's probably maybe a 1-of in your deck. For me, I don't think I'll be running the 3 drop kicks. So for me, it was a hard pass. It is 1. So again, with friction resistance, you pay for it. And again, if the villain is stunned or confused, well, since Quicksilver only has the speed vortex that stuns, and then if you have the 3 drop kicks, I think it's going to be way too situational an event to actually be worth it. So for me, that's why it was a hard pass, you know. So you know, you don't have any allies that stun. You don't have any other characters that can stun in the aggression pool right now. So it's just, yeah, I don't think it's a good card for what we need right now. It's a good card with certain heroes, but for Quicksilver, it is not the card I think is going to be included. You'll pay for that. Obviously, I normally love this card, but again, because Quicksilver only has 9 health, you won't want to take these big damage attacks to remove threat. Again, it's an event card. You want to clog your deck with so many events. So for me, You'll Pay for That is not going to make the cut. Melee, just, it's a good card, but it's just too expensive for what I want to do. Yes, 3 damage to an enemy. Well, I can do that with my basic attacks once I'm fully upgraded. So I'm like, paying 3 for those events. Again, I'd rather just pay 1 and always be running. So for me, that's what it is. And same thing for Uppercut. I just think the price is just a little bit too high for the 5 damage. So that's my reasoning behind this. All right. So those are the main cards that I think that in aggression, the event cards. You know, you're free to choose whatever you want, but I think for me, the synergies are lacking with those specific events that you're like, I don't think they're going to fit my decks. All right, and then the support cards. There's not that many support cards. So let's look at the ones that I definitely want to include in my deck. All right, so first one, Hall of Heroes. If you're the aggression player and you're playing if you're playing solo, again, this is going to be basically based on your strategy. If you're not thinking of flipping down and you just want to stay in hero form the entire time, well, then don't play this. All right, so this is going to be more situational toward you want to build. But I am definitely going to be going to Alter Ego a lot when I play Quicksilver, just to be able to cycle my events. So Hall of Heroes is a definite include. It is a permanent. It costs 2, and after I defeat minions, and all I want to do here is it's always going to be me that defeats the minions, because I'm going to use my basic attack. Sorry, I just got a little bit of hiccups. All right, and then Hall of Heroes, those counters are just going to pile up a ton. So the only time I wouldn't include this is if it's a very low minion scenario. And even if it's a low minion scenario, I think I'd still include it just because it's it's a permanent that I can just filter through my deck. And then the odd time that it will trigger, then great, I get my +3 cards for 2 resources. I think it's still worth it, the investment. And then Boot Camp, again, this is another one. Do I say it's an auto-include? For me, it's a good include just because I love having allies. We are going to be playing allies. Depending on what strategy you want to be using, you are going to be putting allies in. So having your allies get +1 attack, even if it's for 2 or 3 activations, that card pays for it pays for itself. So if you have 3 allies and they attack 3 times, well, that's 9 damage. So there you go. It's 3 for 9 damage. I'm like, for me, it's a definite include in my deck. Now, the only support card I did not include in my deck, it is the tag team. Even though I like this card and it is a permanent, I was like, do I really want it? Of course, I want as many permanent cards, but I think with the card pool right now, I have enough permanents that I don't really need to run the tag team, even though it's a very good card, in my opinion. So for me, it's the only one that didn't really make the cut. All right. And then let's look at our upgrades. All right, so let's look at the upgrades that do make the cut. And this is, I'm going to talk about that one. Let's just talk about this one right now. This is the best upgrade that you can find in the Quicksilver pack, in aggression. This combined with friction resistance is just insanely bonkers. All right, so basically it gives you a 5 attack once you are all built up. So you're attacking for, let's say you have the, we're going to talk about combat training next. So let's say you're attacking, even if you're attacking for 1, you get your friction resistance. So here's how the timing works on this. So you go, I want to do a basic attack. All right. In response, okay, response. After your hero attacks an enemy, I will use my friction resistance. I will spend 2 to do 2 damage wherever I want. I will then trigger my super speed response. Ready. I will attack again. Response. Woohoo! I will play always be running. Response. Boop boop. Trigger, 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 trigger. So if you have 2 or 3 rapid, 2 or 3, what's it called there? The always be running. This is just insane. Even if you have you have a hand size of 5 normally, eh? So you can do that twice on normally. So if you have twice and you have like a skilled strike or something like that, man, that is a perfect turn to do massive amounts of damage. So think about it. That is 4 attacks. 2 plus 2, that's 4 times 4 is 16 damage. You're normally taking out an enemy if you have this kind of setup on the board, which is bonkers. It is so powerful. So friction resistance, Youngborn, Quicksilver. Amen. All right, so there it is. It is a godsend. So yeah, definitely Youngborn. You are putting into your deck. There's not even a question about that. Again, to make these even better. Once you have that 5 damage, so that would be, once you have combat training, that is 20 damage. Obviously, if you have his reinforced sinew and combat training, that is 3 plus Youngborn, 5, 5, 5. 5 a turn, man. You're taking out pretty much anything. There's no question about it. So yeah, combat training for me is a definite include here. Obviously, if you're the aggression player, you definitely want to run this. Next one is martial prowess. Any player's control, so if you're going to be aggression and there's other players that are going to be playing with you, you definitely want to run maybe 1 or 2 of these. You're like, oh, why am I running a martial prowess in my deck if I'm not really I just want to see my events. He doesn't have attack events in his deck. No, I know he doesn't. But if you are going to be running the the toe-to-toes, surprise attacks, into the fray, or the drop kicks, these are the cards that are going to be really, really useful for that. Again, me personally, I just like to include it because it is a resource generator. So right now with this is basically 2 resources. So I can play for that into the fray for 1 resource. That's insane. And then the drop kick, I'm only missing 1 physical resource to stun the enemy and do that. So for me, martial prowess, definitely an auto include. It's a great investment in building up your character. All right, let's look at some of the other upgrades that are super cool that I like with him. So first of all, counterattack. I'm a big fan of just, again, deck thinning. So counterattack, especially if you're using the Juggernaut approach, you definitely want to be running one of these. You're not going to be, you don't want to be taking too much damage because of your 9 health. But the time that it's always going to happen where it's a big attack, and if you survive that attack, man, counterattack can just kind of win you the game on the villain's turn. especially if there's no guards in front of you. So I only put one of these in my deck, and I think it's just one is more than enough. You just have that there, you leave that on the table, and when you do take that big attack for like 6 or 5 or 6 or 7, and you're just like, oh, it brings it to the brink, you're just like, all right, taking it like a man, and then bam, throw that back in his face. So definitely counterattack is a definite include. Battle Fury is the next one. Why? I was only put one in. The reason why, this is when you're going to have your big turn. So you put that on the table, you leave that there. All right. So on the big turn, when you do get your maximum velocity and 1 or 2 always be runnings. So that is going to be, at the cost of 1 damage, it's an extra ready. It's an extra activation, you know, for your hero at the cost of 1. I think for me, it's phenomenal. It's so good. And again, it stays on the table until you actually need it. So that for me is a definite win. And then let's talk about the last one. I would include only a one of for me in my decks. It is, you know, you have these troublesome minions that come in with a big health sometimes. So Lion Weight, 1 cost upgrade, super cheap, definitely including one of them in my deck for that big minion for the modular encounter sets normally that comes in and just goes BAM! All right, so worst case scenario, it removes the tough, but most of the time that 3 damage is going to dwindle that enemy like half of his HP. So unless you're playing against, what's it called, Tombstone, which has 9, so he hurts a little bit more. But there you go. So Lion Weight, you know, once he engages you, deal 3 damage to that minion. It doesn't stun him or anything. It's not as good as like Black Widow's, like Widow's Bite, but Lion Weight is a good preparation to have with Quicksilver, you know, even if you have some of those little annoying minions. Don't forget, a minion with Quick Strike will always attack you first, even before that triggers. All right, and let's talk about the upgrades that don't make the cut for me. There's only 2 upgrades that don't make the cut. Enraged, max 1 per ally. Even though I like this, it is an upgrade. I don't like, the only one I would probably put that on is if I was running Brawn. Because Brawn has like 5 health. Every other ally has like 4 health. So the only one that would make sense with is if you're running Brawn with Enraged. So that's an attack of 3. With the boot camp, it's an attack of 4, 2 damage, 4, 2. So that's 8 damage over the core. Actually, it's 12 damage before he actually goes away. So this makes sense if you love Brawn and you want to put Brawn into your deck. This is actually not bad. And the more I think about it, I'm like, oh, maybe including Brawn into my deck wouldn't be so bad because it does do a little bit of threat control as well. Maybe I'm going to change my mind about this. Yeah, I'm going to include this one with Brawn in the deck. All right, so here we go. Last one, the one I love it, but I think with Quicksilver is not a one that I will be running. Get it? Running? Again, these little puns, I'm sorry guys. They just happen like subconsciously. All right, Brute Force. Again, I like the card. I like the card, but for specific heroes, it's +1 attack and piercing. I think it's going to be one of those optional cards, depending again on the scenario. So for me, it's not a definite include because it does go away after you make a basic attack. So if there's not an enemy with with tough in front of you and you just play it, it's just basically +1 attack for 1 attack and piercing. So it's very situational. So again, I would be putting these with the situational cards. In my opinion. And then let's look at some of the allies that I would include. Now, I'm going to cheat the system here because I did put Brawn into my no-fly zone because I'm more set on the Avengers leadership strategy, Avengers aggression team up, where you basically want to have 4 Avenger allies on the table. Again, allies are the most powerful cards on the table, so running those is pretty good. Now, one that I really like is Wasp. Again, if you're running it with the power of aggression, it's a 2-cost ally that can hit for 3 with the boot camp, hit for 4. I think she's very, very good. 4 attack is so strong. It's just super strong. So, and then the thing you need is a lightning resource. At first, I wasn't too much of a fan until I started looking at how I'm going to build my deck. Because most of the thing is, most of my lightning resources come from either my always be running, and I think what's the other one that has the lightning that I don't want to spend on that? I think is it the No, it's not maximum velocity. No, the other ones are my upgrades. Yeah, so I was like, and the speed cyclone, that it is. So speed cyclone has the lightning resource and always be running. And then there's 2 of my upgrades that have the lightning resource. So obviously my upgrades I want to put him on. So paying that for Wasp, I was debating, but I'm like, after I looked at how I build my deck, I'm like, oh yeah, Wasp does make sense here. Because I do run a lot of lightning resources instead of, you know. Anyway, I lost my train of thought for 2 seconds. So Wasp, definitely a great ally to include. The other one, Spider-Girl, obviously stuns and confuses a minion for 2. Is a great, you know, chump blocker as well. Comes in, does the damage, and then takes an attack for you. For me, I always suggest, you know, since Quicksilver can ready from the defense, if you can, always ready with defend with Quicksilver first, and then if you need it, then use an ally. Don't just chump block with your allies all the time. Try to keep them on the board. It does make a difference in the long game. Hulk. Now Hulk in this deck, I actually want to attack with Hulk in this deck because my deck that I'm going to be building is always going to have a lot more physical and lightning resources than anything else. Obviously, I'm going to be waiting until like the end game, but I can always use Hulk as a blocker with that 5 health. He can normally soak up 1 or 2 villain attacks or even a couple of minion attacks. You can always, you know, that minion that has 2, you know, pop, pop, pop. He's 3 blocks for a 2 minion, so definitely an include. Tigra, definitely an auto include, especially with the boot camp. She's hitting for 3, which is phenomenal. At 2, I was like, but with that boot camp now, plus it's 3 attack. Most 80% of the minions have, you know, 3 health. So she takes out pretty much everyone and is guaranteed to stay on the field as long as possible. Now, the other ones that I do like, and these are a little bit more expensive, Lady Thor, and after she enters the battlefield, again, with friction resistance, I love it because I can always play her and get, you know, that trigger with the physical resource. Love it. So Thor for 4. After you play Thor, from your hand, deal 2 damage, 3 damage if you pay with a physical resource. Again, because I have that friction resistance, I'm mostly inclined to be playing these really high allies. Because she comes in, she does 3, and then over the course, she can do another 8. With the boot camp, she can do another 11. So that's 14 damage for an ally. I think it's capability of 14 damage with an ally for me is just money. All right, so again, here's another great one. And also a target for Enraged is Sentry. Now, Sentry, normally I like to use my allies that thwart for 2 to thwart and to stay in the field as much as possible. But if you have Sentry, you know, after Sentry enters play, you deal yourself an encounter card, which is, you know, fine. But that 5 health with that Enraged in the boot camp, so he's attacking for like 6. He becomes a monster. So I think I'm liking. Like I don't need to do it right away, the Enraged and this, so I can actually use it more towards the end game when I know I'm going to be killing him and I'm like, all right, I just flipped the villain, how much damage can I do? And having an Enraged on Sentry is probably not a bad idea, even if you only use him once. Again, death thinning, and then Sentry is going to make the cut. Because of his 5 health, that's 3 attack events potential, or 5 thwart events. All right, so that I think is very, very good. So Sentry definitely makes the cut now. And normally, like I said, I like to build Avengers, but Brawn with an Enraged, I think is also a very, very good potential ally here that I kind of discarded at first, but I think he's going to make the cut into the even in an Avengers build. I'll just put an honorary Avenger on him and I'll be fine, you know. So I think that's pretty good, and then he attacks for 6. All right, so here we go. So that's Brawn, and then let's look at the allies that I do like, but I didn't want to include Valkyrie. Why did I don't know, because it's just 3 damage to a minion. I still like it. If you're going to be doing the Avengers, like the Avengers Assemble thing, I think in aggression, Valkyrie is going to be an okay include. If you're going to be building with a lot of Avengers in mind and just kind of cycling your Avengers, to, you know, block for you, and you kind of do everything else in your Avengers attack for you. That is the strategy. But again, go look at that video if you want to know more about the Avengers aggression strategy. But Valkyrie, for me, it was like only if I'm playing specifically Avengers Assemble for my aggression team, which is not the leadership card, just assembling all Avengers in an aggression deck. Same thing for She-Hulk. If I'm going to be running her, I'm going to be running her with the Avengers idea in mind. And there you go. And then the last one, who's very situational as well, is Hercules. He's going to be in the deck only and only if we get something that's that makes him worthwhile. So with the like a mutagen formula, or you know, what's the other ones with lots of minion, like Ultron and stuff like that. So those are the cards that the allies that are like more maybes for me. And then here we go. So that is the basic aggression package. What I think is good, what I think is, you know, more synergic with Pietro. Again, deck thinning is going to be the most optimal play that you can have to really find your always be runnings all the time. Now, here's some couple basic cards that will that you should include to really help. I think the best basic cards, again, that you can include in his deck, there's 5 of them, and then some of them are in the deck that I actually pre-built, and I'm like trying to figure out where did I put that pre-built, and I had it somewhere and I can't seem to find it right now. Obviously the case. Oh, there it is. All right, some of the cards that I would include in the basic aspects to complement this strategy. Obviously, Adrenaline Rush. That's going to complement your super big attacks. And again, you can use him really quick in the game, or you can save him when you have 3. 3 with a maximum velocity, that's 5. Plus your 3, that's 8 damage. So if you have always be running like 3 times, that's 24 damage. Wait, 2 always be runnings plus this, and then the combo setup, that is 3. No, that's, wait, that's 5 plus 3 is 8. 16 plus 2 more. Oh my god, that's 32 damage that Quicksilver can do, just like that. Bang, bang, bang. So I think that one shot kill the villain on both stages can definitely be done. Thanks Joshua for he built the deck with leadership that kind of does that. I'm pretty sure you can do that in aggression as well. One shot the villain in aggression, especially with the kind of builds we're looking at. So another one that is very good, this is if you want to build your deck with a little bit more than 40 cards. Avengers Tower, if you're doing the Avengers Assemble strategy here in the aggression, this is definitely going to be one that you want to include. It reduces the cost by 1. Not only that, it also increases your ally limit. That's why Braun wasn't in the deck at first with my ally strategy. But you don't need to do the ally strategy to bring Braun in. You don't need to do this. You can just have 3 allies and be okay. And then team building exercise again. Again, this is just to pay for the Avengers allies. So basically you're paying, if you have all these 3, you're basically putting a 3-cost Avenger for free every other turn or every turn. So I think for me, having resource cards is just amazing for any hero. Then the other one I would definitely include, so Queen Carrier. So then with the other 2 cards and the friction resistance, that's a 4-cost ally for free. Once the Queen Carrier is on the table. Team building exercise pace for Queen Carrier, team building exercise pace for Avengers Tower. I don't recommend running more than 1 of these, especially the team building exercise. You don't need more than 1. So 1 is very sufficient for the task. But think about this. This is basically a 4-cost card, Avenger card every turn for free. Bang, bang, bang. So if you are somebody that likes to just pound and just abuse of all your Avenger allies and just use them to attack and attack and attack and then block, well, you can bring him on. Even Hercules makes sense when he's only costing you 2. So obviously this combo with Avengers aggression is insanely powerful. Again, look at that video if you want to know more. And then the other card definitely you want to be including is Earth's Mightiest Heroes. So for me, that likes to save my allies and use my allies as resources as much as possible. Earth's Mightiest Heroes, again, once Quicksilver has that maximum velocity and a few combos, This is basically extra attack. So this is an extra like 5 damage. 0 cost for 5 damage. Exhaust your Avenger, ready this. And then there's all these little mechanics in play. And it's so good. And then you ready friction resistance. Play more cards. Ah! Mind blown combo. That for me is just insane. Another card you probably want to include is an Endurance if you are going to be one that is going to be staying in hero form a lot. Endurance, again, a permanent, filters through your deck, limits your deck. And then the last card I would include is the Order and Chaos for your deck. For aggression, Order and Chaos is awesome. Once you have Quicksilver, what's her name? Scarlet Witch on the table, Order and Chaos. It's a counter spell. It's 2 damage. I like it. And then there you go. Here, I normally in my deck build that I put together, I'm running only energy and strength. I'm not running the Genius because again, I don't want to have too many resource cards. So in my deck that I'm building for aggression, I only have the 3 resource cards here, double resources. 1 for the aggression and then energy and strength. Again, this is to help Hulk. If I definitely want to attack with him, I'm like 90% sure I'm going to hit either a lightning or a physical. So for me, that's very good odds with the deck. So yeah, I'm going to press pause, and here I'm going to just show you the deck build that I put together for Quicksilver aggression, and then you guys can feel free to try that out if you want, and just give me your comments down below. I'm probably going to play a game with him, but I'm not going to be posting my games. I'm going to be doing these strategy breakdowns instead. I'll be playing it. If you guys want to see these videos of me playing the villains, I think I'm gonna try to tone down the amount of videos that I'm putting out, just because it's very time consuming. So we're gonna be focusing on the strategy instead. I think the strategy videos are more appreciated in the community than just watching people play and see how they do. So there you go, guys. So that is a little, I'm still going to try to do some achievements, though. Those achievement videos are super fun. So Quicksilver aggression, one-shot kill. You can definitely do this with the villain. And I think you can get probably close to 100 damage with Quicksilver and his basic attacks if you go in with a good setup there. I'm pretty sure you could go in for about 100 damage with Quicksilver in aggression in one turn. I'm pretty sure it's very doable. All right, so we'll look it up and see if it's possible. I think that's going to be my achievement. I love damage achievements. So much fun. All right, so here we go. That is it. That is the build. Thanks, guys, for watching. Keep on playing Marvel Champ. Oh, wait. I want to show you the deck first. All right, so I'm just going to press pause for a second and come back to this. All right, guys, so here it is. So talking about resources for the deck. So here's the deck I would build here in aggression. I got 1, 2, 3 double resources right here. Super simple. As far as events go, I have 6 events. I have 3 Earth's Mightiest Heroes, 1 Order and Chaos, and then 2 Into the Phrase. That's for me for the events. So 6 events. So we're at 9 cards. As far as support goes, I have Team Building Exercise, Avengers Tower, Hall of Heroes, Boot Camp, and Quinn Carrier. So we're at 6, 9, and then we're at 14 cards already. And then here we go. And then for upgrades, I'm running 3 Adrenaline Rushes, 1 Endurance, 1 Yawnborn, 1 Counterattack, 1 Lion Weight, 1 Battle Fury, 1 Martial Prowess, and 1 Team Training. So if you're counting right now, you're like, well, Steve, are you at 40 cards already? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Close. So I think I'm at 24 cards right now. Yeah, because we had 9 plus 5 is, so I'm at 24 cards. And then we have as allies Wasp 25, Spider-Girl 26, Hulk 27, Tiger 28, Thor 29, and Sentry for 30 cards. So that is 5 over. So this is a 45 card deck. Now, if you're a purist and you're like, oh no, 40 cards is the maximum I can go to. Well, then if you're going to do that, well, there's a couple cards you could remove very simply. You could remove all 3 of those adrenaline rushes, which are not super necessary. That's just for more overkill and satisfaction value. So those are the 3s I would firstly cut. And then the other card I would cut would be the, sorry, where is it? I would cut 1 Earth's Mightiest Heroes, and then I would probably cut, what else would I cut? I'd probably cut the Lion Weight. So if you guys want to go to 40 cards directly, this would be the deck of 40 cards, the ones I mentioned. And if you don't want to do 45 cards, because I don't really care, but 45 cards for me is fine. Lion Weight, Earth's Mightiest Hero, Adrenaline Rushes, those are the cards that are like extra overkill. So, or if you want to go to 41, put all 3 of those Earth's Mightiest Heroes. It's always going to be worth it, even that extra 1 card. So there you go. So that's as close as it can take it to 40 cards. So that is my deck build. Again, 3 double resources, 1 power of aggression, 2 strength and an energy. 3 Earth's Mightiest Heroes. I don't care. I'm going to 41. Earth's Mightiest Heroes, Order and Chaos, and 2 Into the Phrase. Team Building, Avengers Tower, Hall of Heroes, Boot Camp, and Quinn Carrier, and then Endurance, Yonborn, Counterattack, Battle Fury, Martial Prowess, and Combat Training, and then Wasp, Spider-Girl, Hulk, Tigra, Thor, and Sentry. Alright, so this is what you want to do, guys, to build this deck. Super simple, how it works. You don't really want to play your Avengers. You want to thin out your deck really, really fast. So you want to play, in the beginning, all these cheap cards as quickly as possible. Anything that's cheap or anything that generates resources is what you want to be playing. If you have a few Avengers in your hand, don't worry about discarding them. If you have Wasp or Spider-Girl or Hulk, play those first. Tigra and Thor and Sentry, you'll have enough resources later on to play them. Once all these cheap cards are done, like Team Building and Avengers Tower and Quinn Carrier, you're going to have more resources to pay for those. So focus on the cheap cards first, and then you'll have enough resources to put the big cards into the table. All right, so that is it. That's my deck strategy, guys. I hope you guys liked it. Please share, like, and subscribe. And this is it. Aspect Breakdown. We're going to be doing Protection next. So until next time, guys, keep on playing Marvel Champions. Beat the game.